I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P and Teen Titans Go sucks! Its humor is as forced as a 10-year-old cosplay of Deadpool doing stand-up. It's worse than seeing a grown man play with his action figures in front of his kids. It's like its animation is as bad as a middle school kid learning how to do Flash with his tongue to drag the mouse. It is terrible, it is horrible, it's a whole bunch of words I can't find in the thesaurus. So let's talk about it. Oh, DC, you can't catch a break, can you? Between this, the polarizing 52, and constant scrutiny at making a cinematic universe, you've become the butt for jokes for people who believe superheroes can work only a certain way.
It's the Marvel way.
While I think they found more success on television, it's hard for the mainstream TV goer to think Marvel's the outright winner of superhero material. Teen Titans Go, it don't help them. The show is inspired by the previous and easily superior Teen Titans show, which used humor lightly and focused on the adventures of adolescent superheroes. Now imagine if you took away the plot and character motivations, leaving just the cutscenes where they're acting like Ghibli characters, animated through cheap software, and then managed to sell it to Cartoon Network. That's this show in a nutshell. I know it seems like I'm getting bent out of shape talking about a cartoon I could quite easily ignore, but here's the thing. Every time I turn on Cartoon Network, they're showing it, advertising it, or putting it in a marathon. CN sells this show worse than Nickelodeon selling off SpongeBob. I've managed to watch a season's worth of this crap without even trying. I take that back. I've actively tried to avoid this show and still managed to watch it. It's on when I'm trying to work out at the gym, it's on when I go to the doctor's office, it's on before I go to work when I'm eating breakfast, it shows up on my misleading recommended titles on YouTube. I swear I'm convinced that in another life I must have punished somebody, and this is my punishment, is to watch this on an endless loop for the rest of eternity. And the only way I can get out of this loop is if I talk about it. So when people think that I don't have enough material or I should give it another chance, guess what? If it resembles, looks like, tastes like, smells like, feels like bullcrap, then it's freaking bullcrap! The Titans are a group of heroes who... No, I take that back. They may wear costumes and say they fight crime, but they're not superheroes. That's giving them too much credit. Each episode has a lesson that isn't learned, characters that are constantly obnoxious, and little to no sense of doing something morally right. Obviously, they set the tone that this show is going for. This is going to be the type of humor that won't require you to think too hard about it. However, when it comes to these type of silly comedies, there's a sense of real-world logic, or someone to remind you that there is logic amongst this madness. Well, guess what? There are no characters that do that in this show. You would imagine the leader Robin would be the voice of logic, but he isn't. How about Raven, whose mysterious powers would make her a voice of logic? No, not really. Starfire? She's at least another worldly being who could be observing humans, therefore being a voice of logic. She is not. And don't get me started on Beast Boy and Cyborg, who this show sets the record straight for being the wacky ones. Too bad it doesn't work when all the characters are equally wacky and off their rocker. Overall, one episode to this show can be described as an 11-minute setup where one or a few characters are annoyed with something, then try to change their way through an irresponsible act. Then the episode ends with them resolving it with little to no lesson learned. One of the things they do constantly is use one of the magical characters, Raven, to create a quick fix for their problems. And at some point you figure she'd pick up on her friend's mischief, she rarely doesn't do anything about it, sometimes making things worse. How does the humor work if nobody reacts to the silliness and realize that, hey, it's silly? Even though Ren and Stimpy has been criticized for its stupid humor, there's a moment in each of their madness where a character acknowledges what's going on and realizes that it's stupid. It's like if in Disney's Alice in Wonderland, Alice doesn't attempt to use logic and becomes just as mad as the characters she deals with. Alright, that's a rare exception. And then we have the animation. Ha ha ha! The animation. I find it fascinating how Cartoon Network has been setting the bar for wonderfully animated shows on network television. Most of them animated through vector-based software like Flash. So before you think I'm taking a cheap jab at Flash animation, know that there are some good shows, if not 90% of them, that use this type of software. And then you got this stuff. The one thing that kills me is that the animation seems canned and predetermined. Nothing about it seems inspired. especially since it uses designs from a previous show that stopped airing new episodes about 10 freaking years ago. I have a hard time believing that a traditional team of animators would have worked on a show like this. Small groups of YouTubers can bang out a product like this on a monthly basis. Overall, the biggest issue with the animation is its composition. It's clear that it uses a sitcom 3-way camera setup you could find in cartoons like Family Guy. Basically, it rarely focuses on depth or field of vision, giving us a static set which is as visually stimulating as watching paint dry. They rarely use dynamic angles, which for a show that's supposed to have superheroes in it is an odd creative choice. Especially since there are people on this show who worked on Batman the Brave and the Bold, which used very dynamic camera angles. Again, let me rephrase what I said earlier about this being silly, stupid comedy. As long as it makes you laugh, then people have no problem with it. Then it's okay in their book. However, I can appreciate that, but I just don't get it. And judging what this show tries to do in other aspects makes it feel more floundering. Most good humor revolves around juxtaposing two elements that don't go together. Seeing superheroes do the opposite of good or defending any morals would fit that description fine. In a textbook, this show has a premise that would make it funny. However, the problem comes when you take characters from an existing property with a lot of the same design and voice work and then change it for a silly comedy. This is actually giving me flashbacks of another show. You remember All Grown Up? You know, the show which took the Rugrats and turned it into a teen comedy? You know, 90% of the same creative team for a show with different purpose and direction, and guess what happens? Character motivations that don't make sense, or plot elements that are not essential to a plot. I would have preferred if they created the show with original characters like the Tick. At least you know you can tell with original characters what they're trying to do. Better yet, if they were going to use Teen Titans, why rely on the same Teen Titans when you have decades worth of material to work with and even make a different show? How do you go from a show that does this?
There is nothing you could have done. There will always be people who say mean words because you are different, and sometimes their minds cannot be changed. But there are many more people who do not judge others based on how they look or where they are from. Those are the people whose words truly matter.
And does this.
Waffles, 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 waffles.
But when you get past the confused humor and hackneyed animation, it don't compare to the worst aspect of this show. And I'm all open for criticism, but it seems like the creators deflect the heat they get, use it in their show as flame, and get people more frustrated. What I mean is that in interviews, they state that some episodes make fun of the serious tones and how the show is not being like the last one, using it to deflect the hate they get from the critics. As if to say, guess what? You want us to make a show you want? Well, screw you and your feelings. Video games and farts are what we like to do, so deal with it! Instead of making the show stand out, it's still in the shadow of a better programming while admitting that they can't reach that level. And by taking a knock at it is the closest they can get from some satisfaction out of that. This is a show that tries to be silly and irrelevant comedy, but with its mean-spirited tone against the fans of the original show, it makes it hard for me to watch. And don't get me wrong, I like nonsensical comedies like Ren and Stimpy and Adventure Time. However, at the end of the day, it's not like the creators are trying to insult their audience. I know the creators of this show can do better than this. Batman the Brave and the Bold was such a fresh take on the DC universe that fans needed. However, from what I've had to watch based on the hours upon hours of witnessing this crap and knowing that more will come spewing out of the CN hole, it's enough for me to want to forget about it. This brings me to today's question. What is your favorite type of humor? It could be witty humor, slapstick, topical humor, you name it. Hey, it's gonna give me something funnier to think about as opposed to this. I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P, and thanks for watching this review on the Cartoon Palooza.